If there are any errors are present, definitely it will throw an error. So now let me put this clause also. What will happen, we'll see. Partially loaded, right? If you are executing the same thing, it will show copy executed to the GLO files processed. But if you are running this force equal to true, you are forcefully loading the data into that particular table. And this particular parameter fudge is something if you want to remove that particular file from the stage. So now if you see, if you list out this particular stage, that file is present. So now I'm going to set up a true for this. Okay, now let me go to that particular stage. See, that file is moved out from the stage. Purge means basically I'm going to remove that particular file from the staging area. So whenever like we are dealing with a very huge files and all, maybe every weekly once or 10 days once, we will do this purging so that we will remove those unnecessary files from the staging area and we will archive it. And it depends on the organization how they are going to follow the process. So far is clear, or anybody has any doubt with respect to the parameters? Validation mode,
Sir, is
continue.
this
Yep.
the validation mode and skipping error works with only with stage tables or can work with any table?
Stage tables in the sense?
Like for my user stage or name stage like that,
No,
or
those are the stages, right? We are discussing here about the tables. These are normal tables, right? I have created a permanent table only. So
okay,
you
so
mean
it can
temporary
work
table
with
and transient table or what?
okay, okay,
See, stages or tables are different. Stages basically going to useful for the storing the files. Tables are useful for the storing the data. So here I have created a normal table. Whenever you do create or replace table, it is a permanent table. And this validation mode and on error, these are the copy command parameters. It's not a table related commands. Whenever you are running the copy command, at that time only we will use these commands.
okay, sir.
Yep. So far is clear. Or anybody has any doubt?
No, sir.
So from this copy history, you can see the all the history about the what are the files are loaded, how many records are loaded into the particular table, what is the file size, all the details you can get it from the copy history. During interview also people might ask based on scenario oriented questions. So if during your copy command executions and all, if there are some errors occur and all, how you can troubleshoot that, where you can find these errors and all. So you can tell them, so we have a copy history dictionary table from the Snowflake. So you can do that copy history select and you'll see what is the file and what is the size and how many records are loaded, everything you'll get to know. If you want to see the last rejected records, so this is especially when you are running that validation mode, and if you want to capture the only validated error records, you can run this command. So this is something as a kind of customized command when we are working in a real time. So if you want to do some hacks and tips and all, right, at that time we can use this. So when I'm running that validation mode, you can capture that. So for example, okay, that file it got moved out, all right, I already purged it, right? So let me do one thing. I'm again uploaded that file. So now this is the error record. So now if I want to see that only error records, error values, given correct table name only. Okay. reject the record. Let me see. Stage. So this record should come here. Let me set up this table again. And please remember, we are not going to do all this kind of a stuff each and every time when we are running this copy command in real time. These all kind of a one-time setups, stage creation and file format creation. All this will be kind of a one-time setup. Sometimes they will give access to us, or sometimes they will like kind of admin access, admin people only. They'll create it and they'll keep it. We are just going to utilize that. But why I'm explaining this, if something goes wrong, if you want to troubleshoot, or if it is throwing some error, so what is that error? How you can tackle that error? You don't know. If you know that particular functionalities, then it will be easy for you. Okay, we're saying like there is some, instead of null keyword, it is coming as a empty value. If somebody is coming to you and they're saying, hey, I want to populate the null keyword for that particular column. Instead of empty, I want to populate as a null. So you want to put something else not applicable. I want to populate something different. So then you can use this parameter for that particular file format, and you can alter or recreate that file format, and you can include this parameter. Then when you rerun that copy command, automatically that values will be populated as expected. So these kind of stuffs will come into the picture in real time projects. It's not always like you can go ahead and you can create the stage, or you can go ahead and you can create the file format. No, nothing like that. Even this copy command also is a kind of a, mostly we will deal in the non-prod environment. In production environment, they will not allow to run this copy command very frequently. It is a kind of a, as part of the procedure or as part of the task execution, they will be scheduled. But an ad hoc runs, ad hoc in the sense, sometimes there is some job failure, sometimes people will want to reprocess the data. Such kind of scenarios, we are going to execute this copy command. So at that time, you should aware of these functionalities. That is the important thing. There is something at parameter level, something is wrong here. Ideally, in a real-time environment, this particular setup will be already done. So you can run this particular last ID and you will get to know. I don't know what is something wrong here. See, you can get the only rejected record here. So once you run this particular, you are going to skip that particular error records, right? Once you execute the copy command, after skipping that rejected records, you want to see only the rejected records, you can run this particular command. Or if you want to create those rejected records in a separate table, you can create some temporary table by using this particular command, and you can see what is the error and what are the records are rejected, and you can correct those errors and you can rerun it. You can re-upload that file and you can rerun the copy command so that all the records will be loaded. So now, for example, this is the only particular record got rejected. I know only this particular record having some issue. So I can correct this particular record and I can re-ingest this particular record into that particular table. Is it clear so far? Anybody has any queries?
No, sir.
So what are the parameters are available in copy command? How we can utilize those parameters in real-time project? When to use which parameter? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
What about others?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So now we'll see about the transformations. So we have discussed, right? Like transformations in the sense, people will ask like, okay, I have a in my feed file having a 6 columns, but in my table having only 5 columns. How I can load the data into my table? What I mean to say. So now, for example, this is my feed file, right? So now just assume, okay, feed file, keep it like this only. I will do one thing, other way around. So now I have created my okay. So now if you see my table is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 columns are there. 5 columns are there. In my feed file, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns are there. Or vice versa. Either my table having less columns and feed file having more columns, or my feed file having less columns and my table having more columns. So how I am going to load this data in by using the copy command? How I can tackle this scenario? This is one of the common interview question. So during interview, people will ask. So if your feed file having a more number of columns and your table is having a less number of columns, how you are going to load the data into that particular table? So for that, the Snowflake is providing a flexibility basically. So you can, first thing is you can directly query the data from the stage file. Directly query the data from the stage file. So in my stage, I have a this file, right? This is a customer 0. I have a file. So if I want to see what is the sample data before loading the table itself, if I want to see that data, how it looks like, so you can use dollar and numbers. So $1 means column 1, $2 means column 2, and you can from this particular stage, and you can give alias name if you want, or else is not required. I'm just giving here, so I can select it. See, column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns I have. So I have used 7 or 8 also, but in this table I have only 6 columns. So 7, 8 is coming as a null. So I'm just removing these 2 columns. So if you do this, before loading this data into that particular table itself, you will be able to see it. But the column names, it will come as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you want to populate along with the column names, so what I did, column 1 is a customer ID, column 2 as a customer name, column 3 as a customer email, column 4 as a customer city, state. Basically, I can select the data. I can select the data. So how we can select the data from the stage file, or is it possible to read the data from the stage file directly before loading the table? Yes, of course it is possible by using the dollar parameters. $1, $2 is represent of the column number, and it will fetch the data and it will populate. Is it clear about this? Any queries?
No, sir.
Okay. So now here one more real-time scenario. You can see now people used to ask how we were going to reprocess the field records. So when I'm running the copy command on error class, it will skip the on error equal to continue. It will skip the rejected record and it will process it. So now I know which particular record is causing the problem. Okay. So what I can do, for suppose for this particular customer ID having some different value here, instead of date, it is having some match or whatever, it is throwing an error. So if I want to process this particular record alone, so I can take this and I based on this I can fetch that particular record and I can process it. So now let's see if we are able to apply any filter condition, and here is it possible. First of all, okay, let me try. I just want to see. So if I know the what is the record or causing an error, I will fetch that particular record and I will create a temporary table. Is there any typo is there here? There is something typo is missing here. View 1. Let me try with the view name. It's created, right? Okay, let me table. Maybe the temporary spelling is wrong. Okay. So now see, I can create a table. So from this particular table, I can see the rejected record and I can correct it. I can update and whatever I want to, I can do, right? Select star from V2. So here, if I want to update particular column, I can update it and directly I can insert this particular record from this particular table to my actual table. So this is how I can. So now if I want to load this particular after correcting this, so now just assume I want to update this particular customer state. So now here I can update V2 set customer state where customer ID, I'll be giving this particular ID. So now if I check this particular table, this particular state got properly updated. Now I can go ahead and I can insert this particular record into my table. So how I can insert into customers? Because the table having a less number of columns, right? So I want to give particular number of columns. Customer date of birth is not there, right? So customer ID, name, How many are there here? Okay, here I have 6 columns, but table having only 5 columns. So basically, I want to select the same number of columns here as well. See this particular record inserted into the customer table. This is how I can reprocess the rejected records. So ideally the rejected records will be kind of a less number of records, right? If I want to process it from my end, I can process it. Basically, I can fetch the rejected records from the stage directly, because when I'm running the copy command, I'll get to know what are the rejected records are there. So based on that particular column, I can fetch that particular rejected record and I can process it. Is it clear, or anybody has any doubts here? How we can read the data from the stage file? We can read the data from the stage file by using the dollar parameter. $1 means column 1, $2 means column 2. Like that, you can fetch all the columns. If you want to give some meaningful column names also, is it possible? You can give it. And if you want to filter the data from the stage file, yes, of course, you can use the where class and you can filter the data. And if you want to do some subtraction, so for example, from the name, so this is my so these are the values. For example, particular column 1 I want to, or column 2 I want to see only first 5 characters I have extracted. We were discussing, right, like what are kind of a transformations are possible. So the transformations, reordering the columns, omitting the columns in the sense, for example, in my copy command, I have a only this 5, right? So now let's execute the, so now when I'm executing this particular copy command, so in this particular customer table, how many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Date of birth is not there in the table, but it is there in the file, right? It is there in the file. I want to skip this. I want to omit this particular column. So you can omit that particular column. You can run the copy command. See, 9 rows got loaded. Now you can see all the records loaded into the table only with the till customer state. Even though the feed file having the date of birth, I just omitted that particular column. If you want to do the count on that particular file, how many records are there, you can do the count also. Total 9 records are there. So these are the kind of a transformations we can do as part of the copy command. This is how you can read the data from the stage file directly. Is it clear, or anybody has any queries?
No,
Do
sir.
practice from your end and come up with your queries at least. I'm expecting more questions from you people.
Yes.
Okay, so that's all from my end. If anybody has any queries, please let me know.